So today I'm at Fort Ontario and shit. You know, I've been bouncing back and forth between the fucking GH5, my Sony AX700, and my Nikon D850 to try and figure out which fucking camera do I want to haul around with me. Right now I have two of them with me. I have my GH5 and I have my fucking Nikon. And I want to find out, is it worth it for me to haul around the Nikon when I can do everything with the GH5? So today we're going to take some pictures with both cameras. We're going to take some video with both cameras. And we're going to see what we can get. So this is the Nikon D850. And it's a pain in the ass. It's on a fairly decent carbon fiber tripod right now, but as you can see, even though it's there, even with that tripod, the wind blowing as much as it was, it's vibrating a little bit, and the video quality is, it's 8-bit, and it's kind of mediocre, I think, compared, now that I'm seeing it in post, compared to the GH5, so it's kind of not worth hauling around a video setup for this camera unless it's a second, like, safe cam. It can integrate nicely with the GH5, which you can see here. That's at 60 frames a second, which is another thing that the Nikon can't do. So, it's just a question of which one gets the job done and can do both photography and video. Great. Now I got fucking ticks and shit. I'm wanting to get a picture of the lighthouse out there. So I think we're going to try and do it with both this camera and the Nikon D850. And we're going to try and do it without getting any ticks on my balls. So here we're looking at the Nikon D850, looking at that lighthouse on a tripod. Same problem, wind is vibrating the tripod. I could probably weigh it down or get a heavier tripod to do this, but that's that much more fucking weight I gotta carry. Or I can just sit here with the fucking GH5 and handhold that shit without carrying a fucking tripod and get slightly better quality 10-bit 4K video, actually 6K downscaled. Pardon the dust spot on my sensor. I gotta clean my shit. So this picture is of the lighthouse taken with the Nikon D850 in the 7200 Tamron, still mounted on the tripod when I took this picture. And, I could have handheld to take pictures. That's not an issue with the D850. With that lens, it has vibration reduction, so you can definitely handhold and do that. But you can get incredibly more detailed here. I mean, you can even see two people on the top of the lighthouse. So the advantage in photography of the D850 over the GH5 is the high megapixel full frame sensor, because it allows you to crop in more without a serious penalty, if any penalty at all, in terms of resolution, if your final publishing is the web in any way, shape, or form, including YouTube videos. 4K is generally, it's about 8 megapixels is what 4K resolution is. So 45 megapixels is pretty much overkill in terms of photography if you're going to put photos in your videos. Eventually we'll be up to 8K for everybody, but I think that's a long ways off. And as far as Facebook is concerned, it's even less to put photos up there and Instagram and stuff like that. So if your final output is for the web, if people are going to be looking at your images through their devices, their phone, or even a large TV screen that's 4K, you're generally fine. You don't need the D850 for your pictures. It's straight up. Now this next picture is taken with the GH5, and this picture is pretty much the same situation. And as we zoom in, you can see it does soften up a bit. You start to see a little bit of the image noise, but I didn't have to carry a ton of shit. And in the 70 to 200 lens is like 4 or 5 pounds all by itself. It's fucking massive. And, I was able to get a pretty much the same fucking picture with just throwing the 85 millimeter on the GH5 and cropping in. This is actually a cropped image. I cropped it. What did I fucking crop it to? It was, hold on. I cropped it down to 4460 by 2509, which is probably in the neighborhood of 12 megapixels. Oh, let's see, 2 times 4, 8, 9. It's about 9 or 10 megapixels. Still well over what I would need to zoom in on this like we are right now. So yeah, it's not as much resolution, but truth be told, you don't fucking need it for the web. You don't. And even print, now you're not going to do gallery prints that somebody needs to walk right up to and pixel peep right there in a gallery. And if you're doing that kind of work, then, the GH5 is not necessarily for you unless, the viewing distance is accordingly. But most people who are watching this video or, are doing so either on a 4K television or, and maybe they're lucky and they got an 80-inch, but if they do, they're fucking sitting on the other side of the room from that motherfucker, so it doesn't matter. This quest for 45 megapixels is really for flexibility in post more than anything, because most normal people are not publishing their pictures on platforms that require shit tons of fucking resolution to view. So this is, as I'm playing with the GH5 in a photography aspect, as far as that, I find it more than adequate to even do work for clients who generally nowadays I'm not even doing prints for. But even if I were, 20 megapixel, which is the resolution of the GH5, is more than enough for 8 by 10s or even a blown up to a slightly bigger wall print. But most of my clients aren't asking for that. They probably do print, but they probably don't print big, huge gallery prints. And if they don't, and most of them don't even fucking print, they just keep their wedding pictures digital now. I think that print is dying. A lot of people aren't hanging prints. They're content to just look at pictures and be bombarded with them digitally, or I even know people that have digital wall hangings, which are so low resolution compared to just a 4K television that you don't need the high resolution image anymore. It's nice. It does give you a little bit more sharpness. It does resolve more of the sharpness of the lens. So the GH5 is able to get the job done, plain and simple. So you don't need to, even for clients, like I said, when it's a little bit harder to get the photos out of it, because some of it does require some manual focus if you're using some of the prettier lenses. But for run and gun hybrid shooting, the GH5 cannot be defeated by the D850. There's just not enough bells and whistles on the D850. The D850 is a one-trick pony. If you're doing fine art, gallery style printing of landscapes and portraits, then you need the D850, and it still takes a pretty mean portrait. I mean, it does look a little, just a little bit sweeter, but you can squeeze that same lens quality out of the GH5, and nobody's going to be the wiser because they're viewing it on fucking screens. So, you know, that's all what there is. That's all there is to it. There's no requirement to have both cameras with me out there. And so I think I'm leaning towards the GH5 as my run and gun photography / video camera, especially if I'm traveling or backpacking or trying to keep things light and mobile. Just put my fucking ND filter on. It's a piece of shit. So now I'm shooting a quick time lapse, hopefully before it rains. I don't want to get caught out in the rain with all my shit. But this is the one thing that the D850 excels at: 8K time lapses, which is what I'm shooting right now. So bottom line, if I want an 8K time lapse, really high quality, I can zoom in and out of it, I can do all kinds of shit with it, that's the camera to use. But not to say that the GH5 can't get it done. So far, you know, other than when I get back on the computer deciding which one did a better job for me out here, in terms of convenience, the fucking GH5 seems to be, I mean, I was able to snap off roughly the same. I was a little shy on the reach that I could get with the 70-200, but that's easily rectified by buying a 70-200 equivalent for this camera, which is on my list of shit to do at some point. You know, just all of this shit I gotta carry. I don't need a tripod. Now, granted, one of the shots I just did, you know, of the same thing that I'm taking a time lapse of, you know, I was able to get a little closer with the D850. Obviously, if it's a time lapse, I can punch in even further because it's 45 megapixels. But you know, I just can't get over how much of a pain in the ass it is just to set that up. You know, we gotta think about the practicality, because I can't haul both of these fucking cameras with me, or, you know, when I travel. You know, backpacking, right now it's 30 pounds of gear without anything to backpack with, and that's just not gonna cut it in terms of being able to do this. And yes, image quality is going to be hands down the Nikon in terms of it's a full frame camera, it's 45 megapixels, I'm going to get way better pictures. But do I need way better pictures is the question. If all I'm doing is publishing to Instagram or the web or even my YouTube videos, you know, 4K is not a huge resolution that you need, you know, or even 6K for that matter. You don't need a 45 megapixel sensor unless you're going to crop the shit out of it, which does provide leeway. I can even get even closer to that fucking Canon up there that I'm shooting by cropping in on the 8K time lapse and getting even closer without any loss in quality. There's a lot to be said for that. The GH5 can do 6K. I'm filming in 6K right now, and I'm going to crop in with no loss at 4K. But is 6K good enough for what I use it for? And mostly what I use it for is online stuff. As far as client work, it'd make an okay second shooter based on what I've already done in previous, you know, and putting the Nikon glass on this camera and the convenience of being able to do both video and photos is a hybrid camera. But, you know, I can't help but notice that Tony Northrup put out a video saying that that's the best hybrid camera over there. And I gotta disagree, just because just being out here today is reinforcing the fact that it's a pain in the balls to do both video and photography with that camera. I don't always want to have a tripod with me. And the fact is, without a tripod, your video is going to be shaky pile of shit with that. Not to mention the lack of any autofocus capability whatsoever in terms of video. Which is fine. I'm not to say that the GH5 has taken any fucking awards for focus there, but, you know, just the convenience, the ease of use, the run and gun abilities of the GH5 are really hitting home that that's a good photo camera. It is not a good video camera. And it's a good second video camera. I can throw it as a safe cam on a tripod in the corner at an event, and every half hour go and hit the fucking button because it'll stop recording after 30 minutes. But, you know, in terms of my main cam, I'm going to reach for the GH5. Every test I've done so far, even the low light testing I've done, while not perfect, there's a workflow between 6K HLG, and I'm going to make a video on how I did that, that allows you to get usable, not great, not fucking record-breaking, not something you would deliver necessarily to a high-end client or even in a narrative filmmaking capacity, but in terms of documentary or run and gun, and you're in a low-light situation and you want to get the fucking shot, or you're in an event or a wedding or something and just the lighting isn't there for you and you ain't got time to fucking build your lights up, then you can get it done with the GH5 and some software to clean up the noise up to 12,800. I've proven that. And I'm going to do a whole video dedicated just to that subject on how to do it, how I go about doing it, coming up. But for now, I'm just trying to really weigh in, should I be carrying 30 pounds of photography gear when I go out? Or should I just bring this GH5, probably about 10 pounds of gear with a couple lenses and some batteries, no tripod that I have to carry. I got my little Gorilla Pod, and save myself a ton of weight, you know, and what would I be giving up in return? And I'd be giving up 45 megapixel photos that look immaculate. The photos are fucking spectacular looking, but I can get good enough photos from the GH5, you know, and be able to have decent enough image quality to get the job done. So I'm still getting used to people staring at me while I vlog and shit. So the GH5, I believe, it really is the perfect fucking hybrid camera for everything I need it for. So, and the weather is still looking frightening. What are we doing on our time lapse here? It's still time lapsing. Has the silent time lapse mode going, so it's not clicking. I do want to shoot a time lapse with the GH5 too before I go, but that's easy to do. I'm going to do a whole like time lapse series with the GH5 because I haven't really fully tested the capabilities. You can slow your shutter speed down to 2 with the GH5, which is plenty. Like if you want a nice, like I filmed this silky smooth Chittenango Falls time lapse in video mode on the GH5 just by slowing the shutter speed down. And you can set up for a photo time lapse, a 6K time lapse, using the photo abilities of the GH5. So 6K time lapse versus 8K time lapse, there's another question. You know, which one is worth it? So why can't the weather ever fucking cooperate with me? Now this sucks. It fucking started raining. But I'm not going to go running around in the rain with my GH5, even though it's weather sealed. I don't want to have to clean it up and get everything all fucking wet and shit. Plus, I don't have rain gear with me, and it's windy, and the umbrella didn't work. Yeah, it was ineffective. Plus, my lens on the Nikon wasn't weather sealed, neither's my backpack. So, yeah, it's pretty much I'm shut down by fucking rain now. But overall, I got to running around with the Nikon, with just taking pictures like I usually do as a photographer. And it's just it's like an extension of me now. Like I don't have to think about it. I just take pictures. I see something, I grab it, I go. And I'd say that's the edge in terms of usability in photography that the Nikon definitely holds over the GH5. There's just no way around the excellent photography photo. The excellent focusing system on the D850 for photography, when you're not in live view, is I believe it's a phase detect system and it's just fucking badass. Like it grabs focus in damn near the dark. And the time lapses that you get with the Nikon, I don't even think are comparable with what you get with the GH5 in terms of the level of detail and sharpness and colors. Like, you see at the end of my videos on my YouTube channel, my ScottTheTruckDriver channel, I run some credits, and one of those time lapses was in St. Lucia of a sunset shot in 8K with the Nikon, and it just, bar none, worth it just for that image quality. But there's a lot of setup involved to get those. There's a lot of time involved to take one of those time lapses. So unless you're specifically setting out to do that, I believe the GH5 is good enough. I'm going to see. I haven't done the time lapse tests yet. But I do want to do kind of when the weather's a little more cooperative, a time lapse contest between the two, and see which one does the better deal. Which one performs better. It's just a question of, do I want to carry 30 pounds of fucking photography gear in the woods? Which is what it's what it boils down to, plus traveling. If I'm going to Thailand, if I'm doing all of these things, I can't bring both bodies. I need just one camera to rule them all. And I'm sorry, but the Nikon D850, although the video quality when it shoots, when you get it on a tripod or even on a gimbal, it does a good enough job in terms of image quality. But it's a pain in the ass between not having all the video tools, not being able to do 60 frames a second in 4K, not being able to have good stabilization at all, really. Even the lens stabilization in my VR lens is mediocre at best. Like, you could even see it bounce around a little bit. At least I did when I was filming it when I was filming the lighthouse there. And image stabilization from the lens should be able to take care of that kind of shit. Whereas the GH5, I'm sitting here, I'm filming this, and you would think that I had this sitting somewhere, but I'm holding this with my little fucking Manfrotto handheld tripod that I could set on shit, not carrying around a fucking 10-pound fucking tripod on top of that, which I'm sure is a big part of that 30-pound weight is the tripod. I think I need to do some more experiments where I just run around with this camera like I did in Beaver Lake and see what I can get, see the quality of it, see if it's worth it. But to me, I think I'm going to be reaching for my GH5 unless I'm doing photo-specific work, as in client work that requires photography, or unless I'm looking to create some fine art or some stock photography or some prints. But if I'm just shooting to post online to my channel or Instagram or Facebook, then I think the GH5, with a couple of good Nikon lenses I have with it, and some lenses I plan on getting in the future, is going to be more than enough to provide the images and the image quality that I need. And I do believe that it is a little bit more painstaking to get those images with the GH5, whereas I slap a lens on my D850 and bam, you know, no problems. Whereas I have to manual focus if I'm using Nikon glass, which is the prettier glass that I have. You know, so there's trade-offs. But, you know, overall, I'd say the GH5 is definitely making me happier out here than my Nikon. In terms of video and vlogging and adventures. So I'm gonna see how it goes. It's like all rainy and shit. See, look at that. I'm just hand holding it right now. Doesn't get much better than that. And because I'm filming this in 6K, I can punch in. Like, I can get all up close and personal and shit. I could easily crop in to a 2K image and nobody'll know the fucking difference, really.